gharama ya juu kutumia mtandao huo.
Bembea ni kitoto kuchezea.
Kweli?
Na tunaona kuwa bembea huenda wakati mwingine.
Hivi wenye kufikiria na kuchukua mafundisho kutoka kwa Bwana Mtume sallallahu baya lolote utakalokwenda kulifanya litakuja kufanywa katika mlango wako.
This week on What's in Your Kitchen, who's going to be making for us sticky chicken thighs
into small pieces so that it will be easy to blend.
And the pineapples
for it to get the juice.
Okay. Some time to brown, and then we'll turn side. There's still a bit of lumps there, yeah?
Yeah. So how potatoes?
They are so good.
When are you ever going to stop?
To doubt the repercussions?
You need to get back to the... has not yet won.
Did he grow weak or something?
Njue left her man here.
Will create a small scandal.
Hello?
Just follow my instructions.
You driving that agenda to achieve.
Pressure babangu inapanda daily. I want to end this once and for all.
Usiogope niende kitu.
Toka hapa. Kwenda kabisa.
Jabali ameenda kwa nini?
A place to stay, but I'm sorry I can't take your offer.
So?
How times have I told you staki mwanamke hapa kwangu? She just came to check up on me and see if I'm okay.
Mimi hata sina mahatuba na wewe aki Mama Jane.
Hebu jiite mkutano. He's drinking, he's beating. Silienda hivyo.
Mark is a changed man now.
I'd love to invite you to...
I'm okay and I need to leave. Congratulations.
Kid too.
I'll make sure he attends.
Inland National Park prides in 3 Great Lakes: Lake Crocodiles and Lake Tilapia, which were formed in 19 volcanic eruption at Lake Turkana. The central record of 350 species of birds according to the Kenya Wildlife. This includes 34 species of European migrants, particularly viewed as they return home in the months of March and 60 species of fish have also been identified. However, the beauty of this park lies in the lake. The park covers an area of a squared, relatively small but magical, with to would-be visitors. The park, with some active out sulfur smell oftentimes, reportedly hosts the largest concentration of crocodiles according to the county government of crocodiles breed on the shores of the island Crater Lakes of April and May. The eggs are reportedly buried beneath the sand to escape attentions of monitor lizards. And besides the crocodiles, the Central Island National Park offers tourist opportunities life such as hippos. The prides in a general scenery of a kind. The park ecological and paleontological sites with historic plants and animals.
Many people, of course, come here because they want to visit Central Island National Park. Island, the lake is very unique. Fishing, we offer fishing. You have a chance to catch a very big Nile, which is of course a dream from every fisherman. What would also be nice is sailing.
And apart from Central Island, there's some other do along the lake. Along the lake, around 11 kilometers, we have Napiget Sandy, sports, car sports activities. Wadaj's pyramids along the road towards Kalokol. It's known to be, we've named it as pyramids of Wadaj because it was due to water erosion.
Irene Mchuma Odim, Magical Sense, Turkana.
Well, it is the second day of August 2024. Good morning and a warm welcome to KBC. That we are expecting that the youth peaceful demonstration, so we'll be keeping tabs with what is exactly happening. And still on top of the state of the nation, where are we as a country, and especially happening since Tuesday last week in terms of demonstrations, the effects of demonstrations that have a number of days, and also the head of state and the voice of the Kenyans, what Kenyans are saying in regards to the state. We be very clear that we are past the finance bill because it was shut down by the state of the nation and the economy. And the head of state did say one quite powerful word, that we need to talk. And exactly what we are doing. We'll be engaging a number of some of the guests that have already arrived, including the voice of the youth, because we will be having the youth as well. First of all, to introduce our guests in this program, beginning we have a youth leader and also public policy, Imran Mohammed. He's been here before. Karibu sana, Imran.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me today. Part in this discussion today.
Welcome.
Yes.
Just next to him, we have the president organization of the Nairobi University, Rocha Madzao. Karibu sana. Just next to him, we have another public policy and Engineer Crispus Wadiba. Engineer, welcome. And we also be expecting Ishmael Nyaribo, who is an advocate, joining us in a few. But first things first, you are a youth leader and you also have participated peace and also in a number of issues, especially in northern Kenya.
Yes.
Where we are as a country, the president said we need to talk. But before then, the question was, our leaders said, let's talk and let's listen.
Well, Ben, thank you. Question today. Looking forward to what is happening today, especially this Tuesday in the country. I can say that it's a very scenario that we have here. We did not foresee senses at our disposal that barely 2 years after the general have this type of political tensions in the country, and especially issues that are very important to Kenya, to the population, and to the looking back at, things happened and where we are right now, it is evident that we are listening to the people, and leaders have not been listening to the young. Have a very young generation that is educated in terms of, public accountability, in terms of, who are now coming up to say, this is not how we want things to be done. We saw people promising us during the elections. Leaders have not been listening to the ground. Leaders have, even though they claim, I think it's about time type of conversation genuinely and honestly.
Rocha, I would like to pick your mind happening, and again the church also yesterday about our leaders should be listening. Looking at what the MPs, the controversial bill, the Deputy President said that, how did we even get here? We were very popular with the youth who are now. You are a student leader of the biggest university in the region.
Thank you so much, my brother Ben. And one thing, it is very regime, that is the Kenya Kwanza government, really used the youth during the hope narrative that once we get in, we will and we will be the main beneficiaries of our government. And we have even of His Excellency promising the border borders, and as you are aware, most of those youths who don't proceed to school, most of them, they part-time jobs, mainly the border borders. And he really had us, once we get the government on board through Kenya Kwanza, will be the main beneficiaries. That his government will be an inclusive one, that he will give jobs also private sector, but also in the government sector, which we didn't see it happen. We only people into their regime, and over time it's been building up. Students, we've been agitated since even when they said that they are doing the. Yes, we partake in it, but they don't listen to our views. We went to Naivasha for the leader public participation, and the entire leaders said we don't want this model, killing our dreams, and we can't afford it. But still, the same government proceeded and what we said is not working. So over time, they've been taking us for granted, and mentioning also. I even visited my county in Kwale. Public participation, and the youths there told me youths were shipped in from other counties and came. It was to be a no, and they found the document had already been signed. Vasaka. So it is high time that the government listens. Along even the opposition, they've been telling the government, listen to us, because if indeed the government is serving our interests as citizens. And it is very sad for us to see the MPs whose main work is oversight and representation. Exactly. No. But when they get there, they do. Because why will you go against the wishes of your people if an entire constituency want this finance bill, but you with your judgment, you follow your party, then whose interest of your citizens, or are you serving the interest of the party that gave you the ticket? And where we stand as youths, we don't feel safe. People who don't operate as per our mandate as citizens. So it is high time we had that discussion as well.
From where the Sonu president has left in terms of one of the MPs is representation. I remember the deputy president, we should forgive the MPs who voted yes because they were following the government. If that was not really quite what we should be doing, because for the people, not for the government. Do you believe that our leaders are really representing the mandate of representing the people?
You know, when we elect members of parliament for three things: to legislate, making laws that to be able to govern us well, both govern the judiciary, govern themselves, and also govern the people. To oversight, providing oversight over all organs of government and the judiciary. But they also represent our views. Sometimes they may represent us in a way that we may not agree, or in our opinion as leaders, it is the right thing. In this case of the, if you go back to 2023, 2024, we had a similar, people expressed their opinions and disagreed with the finance bill of 2023, but the members of parliament went ahead to support it with what the wishes of many Kenyans were looking for. The bill was challenged in court to the point where even the house tax was challenged in court, to the point where the laws to be able to have that tax, meaning this government and to an extent parliament, to the people who put them in power. Remember, government was elected by slightly over 33-34% of Kenya. Azimio had 31% of the vote, meaning not vote were neither for Kenya Kwanza or Azimio. Those majority are the ones who have said we are neither represented by this government, we are going to represent ourselves. Remember the problem with the young people not voting. They are the ones who did not vote. We are not going to wait for members of parliament or the government to think about the responsibility to shape our destiny. And therefore, responsibility going forward, not only to listen them, but to include them. This government is run. The public policies that you've heard about, that is, many students are saying it's not right. They were never, that many people had raised concerns about. People are never listening. Health coverage that we are pushing for, many concerns were ignored. The same attitude we are presenting to the finance bill is present in many other issues that Kenyans present. So therefore, one of the challenges this government is its ability to listen. And I want to tell the members of parliament were trying to please you and the party. Political parties that are owned by the people, not political parties that are owned by individuals. The party was owned by the people. The people would have told UDA with this thing. The UDA, which was owned by the people, would have told the executive, the cabinet secretary, proposals. These proposals in the finance bill, they came from the executive. The parliament was to oversight them, which they failed. They just went to rubber stamp. The entire government has failed, both from the majority and the cabinet. It's early time they consider their position in this.
And actually, we will be looking at that, and especially the which comprise a number of youth. But before us to have a feel of what is happening currently in Nairobi, we have my colleague Yusuf Farah Yusuf, who is at procession. Yusuf, what is currently happening where you are?
Indeed, a very good morning to you, my colleague, back at the broadcast. As you've put it, we are just taking a look at the security around the State House, that is the house on the hill, and where we're standing right now, processional way, where you can see right now, as we drove by, we went past, came to processional way, security is beefed up. Police officers that have barricaded this road. This is a processional way, the way to State House. We have officers that are standing guard here, approach this place. Of course, there's people who are being stopped. There's no traffic. Those who are coming out from State House approaching town, as you can see right now, these are people who are going to have people who I want to pass, of course, to access State House. Don't have the correct checks, you won't be allowed. The traffic approached this place the traffic was there's not much of traffic on the road, but I just want to bring your, as we don't have just one but two. On the first line here we have barrier, but if my cameraman can zoom in, there's a lorry far much inside the processional way. So of course you have, and of course another check. This of course is a similar situation. Road, as we are approaching this area, there is police officers placed there that are checking to be able to access the road to State House. As you can see right now, there's a vehicle. This, of course, are part of the security people that ensure that no unauthorized persons will have access to the road. Of course, Troy, this is what we'll be doing, and we'll other places that surround the State House to be able to bring our with what is happening. But so far from Njue Road here all the way to the situation, police officers are standing guard. No unauthorized person will be able to check other places and of course bring this story. Troy?
Yusuf, there, as you can see, the deserted and no traffic heading to State House is on processional heading to State House, and everyone who's passing there, we've seen a number of to ensure that no one heads in that direction in terms of keeping tabs with what is happening. As you have seen, the police there keeping vigil to ensure that is cordoned off. Again, if you just joined us, this is KBC News Check. We are, and especially in the light of the president announcing as a country conversation and a deeper conversation, because to be very honest, this conversation the finance bill. So we're trying to put things into perspective. We are on the right track as a country, looking at the demonstrations and the loss of lives, actually something that as a country we shouldn't be having. Just joined us, we have Imran Mohammed. We also have the SONU president, Rocha Madzai, expert Crispus Wadhimba. And before we crossed over, and I had mentioned in terms of the youth who form majorly everything in the country and especially in the voting. We did witness in the year a number didn't even get their IDs or even get their voters card or even go. Should they be preparing next? Because a number have talked about recalling their members of parliament because of what they perceive are not doing their representation and they're not presenting their work as they should. And voting.
Well, this is a very momentous occasion for the young people of Kenya. And I believe this is for the young people of Kenya to step up. And with, Right Honorable Raila Odinga exiting the political, I believe arena, into regional politics, and you know, the Kenya Kwanza leadership political immunity for a while. The young people stepping up and taking this conversation, wanting to lead on the front line in terms of the affairs of their country, in terms of the politics of their country. Out, you know, people who are misbehaving in government ministries, calling out the head of state and what is happening in the country is a very interesting moment, because with our population as young people in this country, with the number, it has dawned on us that we are indeed the change makers in this country, and we don't have to wait for the future that these young people are the future of this country. No, we are the present leaders of this country, the change makers of Kenya today and tomorrow. And I think with this energy and zeal from the young people, and genuinely tap on pertinent issues without, you know, political affiliations, tribes and whatsoever. Very, very good conversation and a very good energy for Kenya to change for the future. Yes.
I'm looking at the voting bloc that didn't vote in the 2022 election. Statistics, close to 8 million people, and majorly they were youths. Actually change the destiny, can change all the leaders that we have in the country. They did not step out in 2022 in the demonstrations. The future is so bright for the youth.
Yes.
They should remain now if they want those changes to have effect in the country.
Yes, thank you, my brother Ben. And it is very true that we are the majority. And for a long time we have been ignorant enough, and we've been so relaxed and have assumed that politics is only for the last time. During the previous election, I know close to half of my friends, none of them even had registered for the And now one thing is, they always say that why should I vote when I know even if my vote won't count, because that person which I will vote for, maybe his votes may be stolen. That was one of the reasons not vote. The other reason was that none of them really cared much, because they were quite real. There is this analogy: if you take a cat and place it in a room, and then you start looking for an exit. But now, once the beating becomes too extreme, the cat will have to. That's what happened, because now, for now, the damage has been so extreme, and the subjugation and the long time, they also can't believe it, because at my school, as I speak right now, close to half the students haven't. Even now in my DM, everyone is saying they are asking for fare. None of them can afford. So we are at a critical moment whereby the youth themselves are at their lowest, and they have nothing to lose. And there's always a quote, or there's a proverb, phrase, which the youth mainly say, that you can't rob a naked man. So that's where we are as youths. The of all that we have. So the only way, or the only place we can go, is just jump up. So that's, I can assure you for a fact that come 2027, most of the parliamentarians will be youths. They've been saying that safari yao ni, and you'll be there to tell me. And I think we have many people to blame for this, including, because my parents were telling me that in the 90s, the clergy was there to defend the people. Apart from over the recent times, the clergy have played a significant role with regards to helping the government perpetrate these harambes. Because I'm sure when I give you 20 million as a offering, that you are a clergyman. So that's what has been ailing and paining our country. Once they are bought off, they forget about the issue, and the change is inevitable.
Engineer, what these two young men are talking about is quite resonate with the country. Look at the members of parliament that we have. A lot of them are recycled. They have been there. And if you look at the youthful MPs, they even have formed a caucus because they are just a number. But looking at what has been happening in the country for the last in the second week of the they have the mantle. They can change the destiny of this. But unfortunately, they don't. Where they have now, and forget all about 2022, where their voice wasn't clearly heard.
What I want to just ask them is, if you go to Parliament, the leadership of Parliament, both at the Senate...
kindly hold the thought. To cross over to Bunyala Road, where my colleague Abdiaziz Hashim is keeping there. Remember the military, we also have the military at Nyayo Stadium. The head of state said that be on the streets on Tuesday, and Abdi has been keeping tabs to see. Yeah. Abdi, if you can hear me, good morning, and kindly bring us up to speed with what is happening.
We're here at the Bunyala roundabout, Troy, and what closer to the Nyayo Stadium. Remember last week, this was the base of operation for the Kenya Defence Forces once they were deployed by the Cabinet Secretary, that is Aden Duale gazettement. They are currently here at the Nyayo Stadium. Other directions and orders if they are required within the Central Business District and its environs. You do know that Nyayo Stadium to not just the KDF but to the operations that are ongoing here. It is closer. You can enter through. You can go backwards all the way in Mpaka Langata Highway, and also you can reach in many other areas here in the. To confirm to you, the military are further waiting orders to see if the that is the same thing they did last time, which is to snake through the capital and its environs just to ascertain the security. What happened is that they visited major roads, and given that the protest today, if the protesters will come out eventually, sit down in various major highways that are coming into. But that is a matter of wait and see. Given that we have come through the capital itself, we have not seen so that we have seen some people Central Business District, but outside the Central Business District, especially this side of Nyayo. Little to report, given that if the cameraman can show you, the Bunyala roundabout is very critical. These are areas connected all the way from South C, South B, Mombasa Road, also people all the way around. This is a very critical nerve entering the capital. Now this is the same road that to come out. They will use this particular route to enter the Central Business District. As you can see right now, you would have seen a lot of traffic. It is at 10:30 exactly, but right now into this also they're leaving the Central Business District, but the National Police Service, that is IG Kome, has a residence of their safety as business operators within the capital. Also, you do remember a discussion with the members of the Fourth Estate Sunday evening. He clearly stated that they will not allow capital, given that the last time that happened, people lost at least 2.4 billion in losses and damages caused. You saw what happened in Parliament at the Supreme Court. But right now, we're just waiting to see if the military will come out of to offer support to the National Police. They told you they were aiming to in various major highways that are entering. We also have Wayaki Way and Langata, and this is Bunyala Road. That is the main nerve. All the are coming all the way from Mombasa town in Uhuru Highway. This is the Uhuru Highway that will be leading to the Central Business District. KDF will come out. There are codes and regulations that are already in place, given that the Constitution empowers Parliament through Article 243 of the Constitution to deploy military whenever they are needed into the capital. But there are only two scenarios where the military will come out, is to ascertain security and to offer support to the national other areas within the capital that are facing insecurity. But right now, this is the first reason where they are going to to ensure there is a security within the capital. But also the KDF, through their various how to conduct themselves during this particular operations. That is what they will guide them through this particular they have here in the capital. And assured by the president on Sunday evening is that the KDF will only come out police service. But Troy, I need to hand you over, given that we have to continue with our spot check across the capital. Back to you, Troy.
Thank you, Hashim, at the Bunyala Road. And if you Jamie, if you ask me, this is one of the roads that is quite busy leading up to of town, and as things are, it's clear the Kenya Defence Forces are at Nyayo National Stadium. They are being tasked with protecting critical facilities, and Abdi in regards to that as we continue this discussion. And before that, we were looking at the crop of leaders. The leaders that we have now, they've been there for ages. Some have been there for ages. Even the youth have talked about recalling their members of parliament, which is also enshrined in the constitution, other than the fact that IEBC, which is not quite constituted. But this is the time that all this should be done, and the voice of the youth should be heard.
Before we went to the side, is that the leadership in the parliament, if you look at it, Kimani Kuria, Ndindi Nyoro is a young MP. Aaron Cherot is a young senator. Ishungwa, when he joined parliament, was fairly very young. So we also have young leaders in very critical positions. But how they forgot that they represent the majority to bed with the minority is where the problem is. So I'm also calling upon this new movement. Now, the opportunity to take power in 2 or 3 years to come. Can you organize that if you get that power, any member of your organization, if they forget where you came to deal with them? One of the challenges we have as a country, we are a country with no values. We have no principles. A certain political movement, I forget who I am. I forgot the people who took me there, worshipping the organization that I'm in business with. If we were people who value principles and values of our country, we would not be where we are today. We have showing off with a lot of opulence, surrounded by very poor people. Values will not be there. So I want to call upon the young people. Now that you have shown us that we can entrust you, the changes we require, we also want to ask you that you become people who are principled, who are guided character, so that when you get to power, we can entrust you. We have also been complaining about the church. They lost the ball. Once they that they were there to shepherd everyone, they started shepherding only the few who brought money to them. They forgot the money. Call upon the church. They need to revisit their direction as a church and start guiding this country the way we were experiencing the church in the 90s is what we want to experience. A neutral party that both sides of the political divide. So I want to encourage the young people that you are at that point where you, one thing they must make sure they do, we have no IEBC. So they must make sure that we have a fully constituted IEBC so that and they can start recalling MPs if they want to recall or seek parliament and be in power come 2027, 2028.
Imran.
Yes.
Also said that the youth are tribeless, which is quite encouraging. Are leaderless for now, but we've talked about a committee was announced by the head of public service of people who should sit down with the Gen Zs and also forward. As we are right now, we do not have leaders who are mobilizing the youth, and I believe actually abducting people here and there. But at one point, if your voice be heard, you also have somebody to lead you.
Yes. Ben, I think the number one reason why this of young people is very effective is the fact that they do not have a face or a few faces to this conversation we are having right now. Mm-hmm. And the young people have rejected putting faces to because we are in Kenya, and you know the type of political mobility, the type of political mistrust, political lobbying that is out there to manipulate, change makers in this country. So the young people have completely rejected putting, and I think we will continue this way. Power lies in numbers. We will continue to voice the issues that are there so that the government does not have a chance whatsoever. The leadership of these young people so that they can hijack the good and genuine issues. And Ben, if you look at the young leaders now, like Engineer has mentioned, who are in government, that they are political children of tyrants, of people who have questionable political character in this country, and to install nurture young people into a corrupt system of government is true representation of the young people in this country. I think what we have right now is fresh minds on the streets, people free from tribal diseases, people who are free from political affiliations, people who are and calling things as it is. And I don't think we will have to wait for 2027 the way things are going to recall the leaders.
Unfortunately, the IBC one, those are live pictures. Mombasa also has had youths also come out in large. They had talked about in the social media spaces that they will be very peaceful. So far, towards Mombasa, peaceful. They have Kenyan flags, as they had talked about, or dressed in white, Chad with regards to governance in the country, bottles. As you can see, there are placards as well. I wish my director can inform me which part of Mombasa that is, and also our pictures now, just the road leading up to State House Mombasa, which has been a ghost town. No people protesting. We've not seen any security. This is the CBD, Mombasa CBD. Yeah, the youths are entering Mombasa. We've seen, I also a journalist also trying to. Remember last week it was a bit chaotic because the demos in Mombasa, gentlemen, actually caught this protest, and we also had to change our route and the work that we were doing. Have decided to stop somewhere and voice their concerns. We've known violence. Some of the businesses are continuing. I've seen somebody selling some wares there, and we are hoping that today is as peaceful as it should. About today as a special day to mourn and honor those that were killed last week. Let me just touch on accountability. The head of state said that the 19 deaths, although Commission on Human Rights puts it now at 39, said that all the 19 deaths, this is on Sunday, and Kenyans might question the police, because we do remember last year during finance bill demos, a number of Kenyans were killed. We have never known exactly what has happened or what happened to or who killed these people, and the head of state made a commitment that these deaths will not be in vain.
Brother Ben, one thing that really disturbed me was how the head of state, the factor of numbers, whether there are 2 deaths, 3 deaths, 10 deaths, 30 deaths, 60 deaths, something that you really need to feel as a human being, and you really need to feel sorry. And up to now, ever since those, had anybody from the government say, at least let's have this day as a mourning day for those whom we've lost, for this movement that we've had as a awakening period. So it would have made much sense, or it would have seen an effort from the state if at least they would have cared from these events. But all along, they are all shrugging it off like it's normal. Understand how those families feel, how the youth feel when they are being thrown to tear gas, when they are doing their demos peacefully over the past 1 week. The only violence came in when now some infiltrators came on board, and then the police. Because when someone beats you up, you also have to beat them up. So that's what led to one of those. And up to now, what we want to see, not only from the police, but also from EACC, and even from the parliament itself, and even all those who were responsible should be brought to book. Because then why then for a dialogue when the key issues haven't been touched on? And if I may add on the point that has been mentioned, it is true that we have to prepare for 2027, and it is true that one, as a nation, we really lack the values that we really need to embrace, because most of us are driven by vices which really aren't good for government, because government is people. But in Africa, or in Kenya specifically, government is seen as a place whereby it is that when one joins government, his main intent is to leave poverty, when it should be the other way around. If you want to eradicate poverty, you should join your people to help themselves. But now Kenyans have seen government as a place whereby you join in so that you become protected, so that you can do your evil things under the backing of the government. So that's one thing that we really need to work on. And with that, as youths, before, once you were past a certain age limit, you should join training for discipline. Now, once you're disciplined, you'll get the values, because we've seen even the difference between the military and the police. Them was where the military was and where the police was, and the military are very disciplined, and the way they conducted themselves, we even applauded them. So it is high time the youths were involved. Now they get the training in a military. Now we can now join politics when you have the ideals that can guide you on the right path, not just for the sake of it, and then when you get there, we now have the same people that you have voted to support. So before the president calls for the dialogue, our nation, let us see people being arrested. Let us see some resignation. Let us see some firing of those people who have been for a long period of time. Because up to now, we have someone who sold to our parents, our poor farmers, fake for sitting in an office, receiving salary and still cutting deals. So why then will you have a dialogue with somebody or yet cleaned up their mess? It would have made sense if they first clean the mess and then we have the dialogue now on none. Yes.
Engineer, when you talk about accountability, and the head of state was clear that deaths will be investigated, and picking from where Sonu President has mentioned, it should be accounted for, and this is not something that we should be entertaining. But when we look a year ago, a number of Kenyans were killed. No police officers were arrested. We go back to 2007 to Sabasaba back in the 90s. We've never seen the police force being held accountable for the death of an 8-year-old that was a 12-year-old that was shot 8 times. We haven't seen, and Kenyans want accountability at the end of the day.
You know, unfortunately, as a country, since independence, JM Karaoke was killed and Tom Mboya, we've never had that political hold government agencies to account. And therefore, that has been there for the last years. And to cure that, we must reorganize how we govern our country. And we have never had that courage to sit back and say, we are now doing what we call a paradigm shift of government. We have even come back with 2010 constitution. Set a very high threshold in terms of the level of integrity leaders are supposed to have. Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya has never been implemented fully because we still have people with character in office. I remember one cabinet secretary who in the last administration said half of the members of parliament are people with wash and fake papers. And today, majority of in office today are people with questionable backgrounds. And therefore, they are not in a position to hold to account. So, as we push for the changes that we are pushing, we must accountability is a responsibility of everyone. It's not just the politician. Us as Kenyans, as citizens, we must be accountable to what we do for our country. As a patriot, you must be accountable. My vote, where do I put that vote? When I elect an MCA, a senator, MP, who am I electing? What are they going to do? We did not get to office without the facilitation of us by either voting or not voting. Made it possible for the few who voted to put the wrong people in office. And those of us who voted are partly responsible. So we as a country, accountability is a responsibility of everybody. Demonstration. Make sure that the person next to you is not a criminal, because he is the one who will going to spoil the whole. It look like a riot instead of a protest. We must make sure this demonstration remain peaceful. One of us accountable. And the other element I want to encourage the young people, the Gen Zs, accountability is a very important movement. And it should cut across everywhere. This government has been in place for the last 2 years. We'll be celebrating the second anniversary since we did our elections. Therefore, barely 2 years to go. So can he account for the last 2 years? What has he of talk? What has happened? For example, the Hustler Fund. It has been 18 months. Where are the millionaires that have come out from the Hustler Fund? Where are the rich? Fund? Where are the livelihoods that have been improved from the Hustler Fund? We have the housing levy. A few houses that he said groundbreaking a year ago. Where are those people who worked in those projects? Where are those new homeowners? We need to see. That's the kind of accountability we are asking for. Budgets. Where is the economic output from those budgets? We call the economic stimulus package, the ESPs, which we, even up to today, many of us can reflect on the livelihoods that were improved from the ESPs. What is the value of the two budgets that in the lives of Kenyans? So that is the kind of accountability we are looking for. We cannot be talk and we are not seeing what is happening on the ground. Yes.
And still on accountability, we have the issue of debt. In this financial year, the head of state said that we're going to be borrowing at least $1 trillion. A bill was shot down by Kenyans, and he also acknowledged that $1 trillion is an astronomical figure, bearing in mind that for every 100 shillings that we make in the country 61 shillings over by the debts that we are having. We are in a debt dungeon, so to speak. We have damages amounting to over 2 billion, as he said. How do we balance our?
And I'm very happy the young people have put out a lot of information. And for example, he says, why should we spend 600 office of the First Lady, 200 million in the office of the spouse of the Deputy President? That budget. And the way we be doing budgeting as a country, we say, if I spent 3 trillion last year, let me add, I must spend 3.3 trillion. It is not budgeting that is based on the fundamentals on the ground. changing on the ground. But in terms of how we do our budget process, it is still about adding. Are you adding to waste? We have a lot of wastage in government. We have a lot of resources put in to us. If we take part of the money that we are putting in areas that are no economic output, and we take that money to areas where, for example, we can create a lot of jobs. Not every young, I'm an engineer, but I can tell you, a person will go to work in a construction site. But if we put that money, for example, in the creative area, in the manufacturing, in agriculture, and not fake fertilizer for this matter, in areas where, as opposed to where we are spending a lot of money to do paying pending bills on roads which we don't even know if they were joining, in housing projects where very few jobs will be created, we need to put that money in impactful, high impact areas to increase the value, the revenue this country is generating, and within a very short time. And we cut on wastage. We have no business in spending 1.5 million, because that's the true value of an MP today. We have no business in spending 100 million or 50 million on the deputy presidency. We don't have that luxury. Our money on young people, on livelihoods at home, on health, education, on ICT, areas where we have great impact that can be felt of this economy, so that it can start generating the value or the revenue that we require. That will be the way we'll get out of debt.
The national debt, and one of the on X, the young people want to know is the national debt that we have, an audit of the national debt. Some have borrowed from what Okia Umtata, the senator, said, that we need to have a national audit of our national debt. After that, we really took and they really benefited us as a country, we pay them. Where money was lost and money, that money should be accounted for, and those people should pay for that amount. I would like to pick your mind on the national debt audit.
That we really need an audit. Actually, I was traveling back to Nairobi when I was reading some newspaper, and the Uhuru Kenyatta had borrowed a loan to finance the sector of health. The regime had to ask the outgoing regime, where was this money from? And sadly enough, there was no accountability. So I'd say that this has been a problem that has not begun only in this regime, but it has been there over the previous. We really need to have a serious audit of all the money that we have been borrowing, so that from there we can now know how much do we then need to raise, because we are having a financial cap that has holes everywhere. So yes, the head of the state wants to out these holes that are so many and are emptying our basket. So before we start to raise more revenue, let us first know how much do we have at hand, how much is needed, and how much we have spent. Convicted for fraud and inactivities that have led to our loss of money should pay for it.
You want voice on what the engineer and my brother have said. The wastage in this government is just. Government is on a spending spree, and you see the head of state has traveled over 63 countries in just. You see government officials.
All right, allow us, Imran, to have a look at the. But gentlemen, we need to take a break. But when we come back, we still have a lot to talk about. We've seen abductions in the country and the rule of law. The CJ has also weighed in on the demonstrations, and we hear what you have to say in regards to the demonstration. As you have seen from the last pictures that we have been, many businesses are closing, and we have obligations as well. But where does this take us to? Demonstrations as called by the youth. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after this, but those are pictures from Mombasa. The youth continue with their demonstrations. So far, so good. We've seen peaceful demonstrations, just walking, carrying water, carrying flags, and as well. Hope that cascades to other counties as well, because the violence is really taking a toll on our country.
Je, unajua kwamba uhalifu unaoathiri sisi sote? Hata hivyo, wateja wengi wa maji husalia kimya. Wasreb, tunaadhimisha miaka 20 ya udhibiti wa huduma za maji.
Rodrigo, I just came here to tell you that I already canceled the trip that we were planning to take. With everything that has happened, it doesn't make much sense.
I can't be in that house anymore. Really? It's all because of her again. It's because Oligario is the person that truly bothers me.
I'm going to let anyone ever hurt or harm you. I'm not going to let but I will protect my father from anyone who will try to hurt him as well.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why.
Experience the drama.
Get out!
Who is the man in this office?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwani.
Sio wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tunapewa.
Move to the
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package. Watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Mwalimu, angisi Palace girlfriend.
Really? What a weird coincidence.
You and I both can. Sisha.
Saitan. See, I thought we said we are not going to speak about that Jetien again. Why are you spoiling my mood here?
What is wrong, eh? Please, what? You think I'm one of those women you are calling?
Mwalimu, can you imagine?
Native TCU.
Me? Why? What did I do to you?
Welcome back. This is the great KBC News Check. We're taking a quick break, but we are looking at the state of the nation, state of the demonstrations. We have had a look at Bunyala Road, Processional Way, and the peaceful demonstrations are currently underway. And let's now cross over to Parliament. There was, quite chaotic. Give us on mine, my colleague is currently checking out exactly what is happening. Let's cross over to Parliament.
To you from Parliament Road, just to see what is happening around here. You remember, the Tuesday demonstrations that led to the invasion of this particular building, and this is installation of the government, of course, restricted access to any members of the public. Up till now, the only people who are allowed to enter there is members of parliament, members of and parliamentary staff, and even including members of the press or the media. We are still not allowed access to the parliament last week, but so far, right now, actually, there is a very heavy presence of police of uniformed. You can see they have, of course, not actually blocked any road, but they are here guarding all the leading to Parliament. Very heavy, well dressed, actually ready for any, for any occasion. But there's no any engagement to members of the public. The look at them; they're very ready, just taking, being ready to handle might arise. But things so far, there is no any altercation with members of the public. Way no road has been closed, but this is the way things are looking, and I just want to show you the parliament that was destroyed by the protesters who forced their entry into the buildings. It's been repaired. It looks like the way it was before, but of course you can see which are still bent, just showing you that there was something that happened here. Of course, some things were destroyed. The electric fence that quite inside, and some quite destruction that happened last time, and the electricity connection that has still not been repaired. These are of the Tuesday demonstrations. Actually, the electric fence is down. It across, around the parliament buildings. And so far, security is quite heavy and very much. This, I think it's also police. I'm not very sure whether it belongs to KDF, but I think this is police taking cover. Just want to bring you to speed that the heavy, or rather the security around buildings is not like before. Today is being quite tightened, and it has been looking like this like every day. This is an armored vehicle of the police. This is good in dealing maybe with the protesters. Maybe it cannot be destroyed with stones. A bit of the stones. The entry into the mausoleum where the first of the nation, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, is lying. The army men there, just ensuring that everything is secure, everything is safe. I just want to show you, move to the road and just show you the normal activity happening. This particular road, the Parliament Road, was closed for members of the parliament. Opened. It's very normal. No member of parliament refused entry or access to this particular road. Look, roads, the cars moving, the traffic, of course not traffic, because I think even the motorists are still taking caution. Or maybe they think it's been closed for public. It's not been closed. Though not very much heavy traffic, members of the public, most of them even, are accessing the road. Not so many of them, though. Maybe, I don't know whether they're taking caution because of the aftermath or whatever time. You can see this particular. It's full of men are there inside. They are very ready. You can see how they are strategically placed inside. Wherever they are inside, they are able to view their ground. They're able to see whatever is happening on the ground. I think they can verify. And I just want to show you a picture, a very interesting picture in Kenyatta International Convention Center. The water cannons are lying there. Them I can spot around 4. They are in pairs. They are placed in Kenyatta, or rather the KICC, if you like, the water cannons, and also. But you also remember there was a court order last week that was of the National Police Service, asking them or instructing water cannons not to use tear gas and not to throw towards the protesters who are peaceful. And the key word is peaceful protesters. There is a court order banning police or barring police from using tear gas, water cannons, and I think that's why they are there. They're not on the roads. And what is on the trucks who, inside, show you this particular the city way, show you how it's looking like. It's also very normal. Ordinary activities, or rather members of the public going normal activities, moving around. These are police full of and women, and just making sure who is accessing this particular road is, or they do not have any intention of causing havoc around the parliament buildings. And you can see staying in 2, in 4 security around. And I think away from here, I think they've also observed that there's some peace place and there's no havoc. There are no even many members of the parliament. Few of them who are making, their normal activity, going to their various destinations. One last picture of the city way. Governor Johnson Sakaja's offices were destroyed Tuesday's protest, and they were actually burnt down. And of course, opposite is the Kenya's apex court, the Supreme Court, the gate. And of course, we also know the protesters also made to the office of the Chief Justice. They destroyed property of unknown value. And last week we also saw the aftermath was the report. This is a very close shot or picture of the police security around this particular area. Is a restricted area, is a very key installation. And opposite is a Holy Family Basilica. There was also altercation of protesters after some of them took cover there for safety. And there was also a report that one of the protesters or rather was injured by a gun bullet right inside there. But today, I'll show you one more picture of the city hall. It's very normal and it's very calm. Not so many people, but it's very normal. And it's happening, and you can on the side of the Supreme Court, there's no traffic. Things are running normal on this part of the town. I don't know, but my colleague on the other side of the town, many businesses are located there around Afya Center, Ngala Street. My colleague Wahungu Joseph is, to bring us to speed. But this is how things are looking like on this part of CBD. Back to you in studio.
Very well, contrasting pictures today and Tuesday last week. So far, those are live pictures from Mombasa, and marching for the last couple of, couple of minutes. That is, earlier on we've heard from Giverson Minor that a parliament branch of the protesters last week has been cordoned off. No media people other than MPs, senators, and those that work in that. From there, we also cross over to Githurai, where has made his way to give us a feel of how things. We've seen in Mombasa, the protests themselves are quite peaceful. Nairobi, largely deserted. Businesses are also closed for the day. The roads are clear, but huge many corners of Nairobi, and especially on the Parliament, where my colleague Hashim has made his way to the place that sometimes issues in regards to the protest. Over to you, Hashim.
Stadium, Troy, we're here in Githurai. We're able to the capital, that is the CBD, all the way to Githurai here. And what we can affirm along the streets, all the way to Githurai, we've gotten a chance to enter Githurai. About, we've seen businesses are up and running, despite be along the roads, given that we've seen fewer cars making their way into. If you're residing along Thika Road is clear for you, or go back this way. That is what we can affirm to you. Remember, this was reported off on Tuesday when the deadly protest got out of hand. Of course, Thika Road, and the anti-riot police were able to intervene, so alleviate the situation. But we can tell you right now, businesses are up road, and if you're about to head to town, we're crossed about the CBD. So you can head into the Central Business District, conduct your daily businesses, but unfortunately not opened up their businesses due to fear. But the police have also ascertained the environs of the Central Business District. In Githurai, you've seen has not been hampered, given that Githurai is known for its transport system. There are many to and from the capital. They're already preparing themselves to enter the capital, and of course some of the traders have expressed enthusiasm. Also the markets here, you do know that also Githurai is known for its especially selling of vegetable products. That is what is happening in Githurai. If the cameraman is showing you right now, there are fewer cars that are district and others who are leaving the CBD, but the police have ascertained coming all the way from the Central Business District to Githurai. We have witnessed police across the street so as to ascertain the security level of this is very critical to the Central Business District and its environs. Also, the battle they will be sitting across down, that is clearly stating the now withdrawn the anti-finance bill of 2024, the clear down on Major Street. We have not seen much of that, given that we came from to Thika. Also, we'll be heading over to Waiyakiwe and Langata, and once we do get more valuable information, if, and I repeat, if you even seen a truck right now has just passed us entering into the CBD, ascertaining the security. As and when we get more information, we'll duly inform you. But if you're through the Central Business District and you reside in these parts of the capital, you are able to go to the central, that the traffic is moving on smoothly. But for now, tabs on various other parts within the capital, we'll be heading over to Waiyakiwe. To you, studio.
Thank you, Hashim, live from Githurai, and his roads are clear. People continuing with their businesses, and from Parliament, we were having very clear. The staff of Parliament are being allowed into Parliament, and fortification of security. We've also fortified. Looking at another legal mind, we have Ishmael Nyari out of Kenya, and also a leadership and governance expert. Karibu sana, Bwana Ishmael.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Talking about Parliament, the Gen Zs and a number of, we might need to recall these MPs, but unfortunately, yeah, and especially the troubles that are with IEBC having not been quite. We also have places that don't have MPs because of IEBC. How do we go about?
So I think let's start at least. Why are we worried of how it will this tape? I think that Kenyans should start with what they want. If they want to recall, they should start immediately now. Let the hurdle come when we go to present the petition. The High Court has to review the petition and confirm whether the verified correctly. When we go to the signature, whether there is IEBC to verify them. I mean, I think we should not. Let's at least start. And then again, Ben Troy, when you say Gen Z, I've actually now a request. By the way, I think this protesting has now slightly beyond Gen Z. We really appreciate and young people for initiating this. But I think everybody in the country, we want proper governance, we want our services returned back to us. I mean, told rather, we want to live our life the normal way without from the people in government. That I think that is citizen, that we don't want this opulence, this wastage of resources. You're still, trying to make us feel like we are the mini and you are. So I think we should start the recall immediately. I already updated that on my Facebook handle long back. We need people from constituencies to start collecting signatures and coming together and saying, you are not representing what the psyche of our constituency is to get you out. But then in the process we will see whether it is true, whether the High Court can approve, whether, required so that the person can kick it out. I'm only trying to a good interviewer that we should not be defeated before we start.
All right, we'll be telling us how we can that the president shut it down, and a finance bill in the country has been shut down it's in entirety. So you'll be telling as a country. But before then, Imran, seen the streets. Actually, I usually take half from my house to here, and I took barely 20 minutes. It's a very busy day, Tuesdays. We have seen a number, actually a lot of have closed down for today, and even in Githurai, as Hashim has, effects to the economy. And since the Gen Z have not quite manos or when these demos and protests will be ending, we've seen Mombasa businesses have.
Well, Ben, the effect of these demonstrations that's across all businesses, all sectors and as you can see, nothing is going on. Kenyans are sitting waiting to know the fate of this country, waiting to see what it's going to be. And of course, most of us hand to mouth. We come out every day, look for our daily, and with this type of to businesses, people are hungry in the houses, and I think it keeps them more angry in the house. And That's why momentum is rising every day. Kenyans are coming out to make sure that we get a lasting solution to this problem, because nobody in this situation for long. The economy is damaged in significant ways. Businesses are, of course, the finance bill and taxes also is a major thing to look into. Running away from the country, going to Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the local domestic businesses are dying. I myself included, I'm a small and my business is closed.
Let's first of all cross over to Kenyatta Avenue also to have a feel are operating there, because the effects are quite. Some of the events, somebody was telling me that some of the events at the Kenyatta International Convention postponed owing to the demonstrations today. But let's first of all hear what has been able to prepare for us from Kenyatta Avenue. Over
Njue from a studio. Indeed, we're coming to you live from Kenyatta. Kama tulivyoshuhudia hapa, hali kwa sasa iko tulivu. Tunaona kwamba wananchi wamejitokeza tu, wanaendelea na shughuli zao. Kama unavyotazama Avenue, pande ule tunaona kwamba kuna mabenki kule ambayo yanasalia waliokuja jijini ni wachache tu, si wengi kama kwamba wengine. Unavyokuja katika eneo hili la barabara kawaida, watu huwa kuna msongamano wa magari na msongamano wa watu pia, lakini sasa unavyoona kwamba ni kama hivi unavyoshuhudia, watu si wengi kwa sana. Biashara nyingi zinasalia kufungwa, pengine tu wengi pengine wakwenda eneo hili lingeshuhudia purukushani za maandamano kama ilivyo wiki iliyopita. Eneo hili lilikuwa limegeuzwa ulingo baina ya maofisa wa usalama na kundi la vijana wale wa kizazi kipya wale ambao ya kufanya maandamano yao hapa, na imeweza kuzungumza na wafanyabiashara kadhaa kutaka kupigwa picha, na wameelezea kero lao kutokana na maandamano yanasababishia tu hasara kubwa sana, na wamekuwa wakitoa wito kwamba subira, kuwe na hali ya kuelewana, kujaribu kutafuta mwafaka kuhusiana na hali inayoshuhudiwa katikati. Ila lile ambalo tumeshuhudia sisi wenyewe ambao tunaweza kusema ni kwamba nyingine mengi tu, barabara zingine nyingi tu ambazo ziko katikati ya jiji la Nairobi uzingirwa ama kudhibitiwa usalama na vikosi mbalimbali vya maafisa wamekuwa jijini kuanzia tu alfajiri siku ya leo, ili kuhakikisha kwamba hakutakuwa vijana ambao wanafika katika eneo hili kama ilivyokuwa Jumanne iliyopita hapa. Kwa hiyo ndio mwanzo mkoko umealika maua, ndio tumekita katika eneo hili kujaribu kushuhudia vile hali. Bila shaka yoyote yale ambayo tutakuwa tunaripoti kama tunavyoweza kuyapokea katika kwamba ripoti yalipo, kuna sababu ya kwa sababu kwa hiyo ukiwa studio.
Shukran Wahungu, thank you for that report. And gentlemen, as you have seen from the pictures on our big screen here, is that Nairobi looks more or less like a public holiday. Tell us the effect that it's having on the economy, and more specifically, some even colleges that are shut down today.
Very true. With deteriorated with regards to the demonstrations, it is true and it is a matter of fact. But let us trace back and see why is it that, as I mentioned earlier, when we began these demos, during the earlier days, we were very peaceful. None of us were looting. Shops were open. Now the mistake happened, or the damage came in now, when infiltrators came on board, used force. Those were the two factors that played a key role towards beginning. Now they turn them from now protests to now riots. Because we have the right to protest as per the Constitution and Article 37, and that's what we were doing as youths who are feeling Njue. We need to discuss paining us, and it seems none of them or none of our leaders is really listening to us. And it was then that now the government, who are, in fact, they were supposed to protect us as we must, but instead they now became our enemies. They lobbied tear gas. They began beating us and chasing after us. When mandate was just to protect us. So with time, of course, we've seen thugs and others coming on board, and now joyriding. And now the police themselves now they take all of us as if we are all enemies. Done. They should have fished out or smoked out those who are masquerading as protesters, and then they leave us protest. But if they still continue doing that, they'll be instilling fear to us when we are only practicing citizens. So it is really a big shame to see the government in putting these measures that are really hostile to young men who even carried a gun, young men and women who've never even, for the first time, youths have smelled and have. Most of the students are now sick because the tear gas that they used, I'm told, they were poisonous and they were harmful, and had most of them is sick beds.
So you have expired.
Yes, so we'll need to also address that as well. Yes.
I'm looking at what the head of state talked about on Sunday, and he said that the we're having do not stem from the finance bill alone, do not stem from the protest alone. There are so many things not being done the way they should be done, and rightfully so. But he can go down and who spearheaded all the reforms that the country was clamoring. Who ended corruption. He could go down in history as a person. What exactly should the president build up from what we have? Do not exactly stem from just the finance bill. It's because of years of a number of things, including mismanagement of resources.
When he was being sworn in, he promised that the moment I put the Bible down, business, one of the things that we do not expect to be usual is corruption to continue within his government. We did not expect opulence to be something that every day in our lives. We did not expect wastage in the public service to be something. We did not expect punitive taxes that will make the lives difficult as we progress. We expected him to deal with the cost of living, try and bring it down. We expected him to deal with the issue of employment of the young people, where more businesses can thrive and the employment can grow. We expect resources of this country, including financial, economic, and social, in areas where there will be more great impact. Expected the rule of law to prevail. And also we expected him to make sure rules of IEBC that we have always suffered from for the last 10 years are not extended. He went and made sure that there was a transparent inquiry where the commissioners were. Much has been done in terms of putting a new IEBC. We have had a national dialogue forum which had a very elaborate report. What has been delivered from that report? We've had with this administration for the last 2 years, there has been a lot of talk with less. That has made people get impatient. 2 years down the line, we've been talking, less doing. And time is running out. We are a country where we have an election cycle of 5 years with the campaign. So you're up with 4. If you don't do much with that 4 years that you have, then what? So the people give up. We have looked at this government and we realize 2 years down the line, have so much traction in terms of getting out of the problem that we have. We have 2 years left. Then what are we going to achieve from this government? So the best way is to rise up as demand for change. We demand for accountability, demand for change, demand for better public, for leaders to do what they are required of themselves. And that is what is happening today. So the needs to realize that the call for action from the citizen is real. One of the things that he must do is make sure that the cabinet is dismissed immediately.
Beautiful.
Because they are the ones who have failed him.
Beautiful.
They made the wrong proposals. Two, he must change the entire leadership in the parliament. Because if they did not have the wisdom to tell him these things in our country, then they have no business being there. Unless he's telling us he's running this government alone.
Absolutely.
He has advisors who he must listen to. The first advisors to go are those the Ds and the cabinet who misled him. Number two is the leadership in parliament, including the speaker. Then now we can start seeing their changes. And
Now,
the other thing he needs to do, not vote. They must be part of the policy making going forward.
You see, Bentro,
Yes.
I'm supposed to tune into each other, even without intention. He's actually mentioned sending home the CSS. That's exactly what I was going to say. I'll be brief on that.
Are you saying that because actually he actually pointed out that his communication, then he said he believes
No, but he has
his
been
people
saying that.
around him are failing him?
No, the head of state has been saying. Now, the question would be, why is he keeping it? Even forget the finance bill. His ministers have no clue on what's going on in the respective department. That's where the problem is. By the way, if the head of state has to survive this current, he must send home all cabinet ministers, at least as a basic minimum.
That will open
but
we've seen press conferences, a person has been targeted.
No, beautiful. Of course, that will come. But if actually he has to survive this and comfortably the public and remain head of state for the remainder of his term, he must ask his cabinet secretaries to go home. They should start. He should actually, use the Article 152 powers to make sure he dismisses them. Rightfully put by my colleague here, it is true that they misled him. And then once these people, once they comes up and says, of course we know there was pressure behind the scenes, which, because we don't have not discuss them here, that the head of state came up and said, no, we cannot actually go ahead and sign this bill when kind of a complaint. So where were the ministers? They were looking at him. They were cheering him on. They knew, even these ministers, they all knew that this bill is unpopular. But they actually literally wanted to, to bring the head of state against the public. So if he has to survive this, he must ask, then let him choose people who probably are not his friends, who know nothing, who are completely, the fact that he allowed his sycophant friends to be next to him is what he had, hard love friends, those who can tell you, no, this is wrong, Your Excellency, this is. Today we could not be in this mess. So I think, as correctly put, the CSS should go home, and then all Parliament who are simply dancing around the president without telling him the truth, that king, they also should go home. Even from if they can see what happened, actually, they should buy their resignation. This happens in developed economies. In most democracies, members of parliament will like, sorry, we are going home. I mean, we have people who resign to the level of a prime minister. They resign. So then Gen Z will go back to doing their artwork of online jobs they do. They will be enjoying, because nobody is stealing from the public. So start getting penalized and overtaxed just because somebody somewhere was close to the head of state and he had make a phone call here and there and steal from the public. So that is where the problem is. Now, this question, oh, there is corruption, tribalism. To be very honest, it's all about a human being in power honestly wanting to feed himself. It is not magic. Corruption is what? It is explained in our constitution. It is in the... It is those in power who are unable to tame their passion for entertainment. It's not even wealth. It's some, somebody wants to carry some 1 million in the pocket, put on a suit for 3 million, shoes. The things that are actually hurting the economy. If the head of state, using Christology principles, there is no way we can do this. I mean, he has let his members of parliament and his close friends to rightly, show off unnecessary. Now you show off a watch, you show off, clothes. That's structurally wrong with your brain, actually. So if the head of state can wake up tomorrow and say, sorry, I am going to end it. It will end because he himself will say this cannot happen. And once he says that, and he knows, Kwanzaa, let me tell you, the person called William Ruto, if you study him correctly, stands above what we normally understand as human beings. I can explain that in another. He understands in minute detail who human beings are. So he cannot lie that he doesn't know he's doing what. He understands that. Then add the intelligence he gets. So he can simply say tomorrow from today. And that means he has to start with himself in terms of sacrifice, in terms of saying, no, I can actually use a normal Prado and it will be fine. I do not roads because they are really unnecessary castles. So I think it should actually.
Looking at, as you can see from the live pictures on your screen, that is Mombasa, and decided to, of course, you see Kennedy Onyango, one of the protesters, one of the kids killed during the protest. The youth had talked about, we are mourning and honoring those who are killed by Imran, the head of state, even in the digital platform that he had yesterday with he said that there are some things that he's going to implement today. There are some that he's going to have to look at to cascade. If at all he cedes to the demands of the Gen Zs, do you believe that that as popular as it was 2 years ago?
Well, from here, it takes a long time to go back. It's a bit difficult. Right now, the young people are contemplating taking over the government, asking the president to resign and actually disbanding the whole of government using the people power. So it's a bit here, but what I can tell you for sure is the president, if he listens to what and he has quite clearly put it, he agrees with some of the issues that we have. And we need to see action because this music has long been played. They say if the music changes, so if he indeed knows and listens to the young people, then we need to see action. And if we see action, of course, we need a stable country, we need a stable economy. We will an exit strategy so that Kenya can go back to where it was 2 weeks ago.
Looking at some of the things that were happening even before the finance bill, let's be very honest, we're not living in a some disjointment between the two principles, the two offices, supporters of both the head of state and the president. If at all, all these changes that Kenyans are clamoring for have to be done, we cannot have a distinction.
It is very true, and actually when we were listening through to the president during the interview, the disparity that he was saying about his number two, and I think from where we stand, in fact it is very early for us to see a disgruntled, at least for the other regime it had to take close to the second term. For this one, as early as 3 years, we are already seeing that they are having issues with themselves, so it is high time for them to first get the. As to what my fathers here have said, it is true that we are in this mess because of the political reward that I'll give you this job, that I'll give you this critical position because you financed me somewhere. So someone is benefiting at the expense of the public, who depend on someone who is well versed with those matters, because it would make sense, like what we are seeing right now, the CS feel and understand the pain that people are feeling in the hospitals and even the medical interns. It is now haven't been paid up to now. They've been on the streets, they've not been catered for, and the CS she's adamant that she won't make any time that we really borrow. Yes, we were complaining that we had a drunkard for a president, but at least during his time, right judgments, because we saw him bring the likes of Matiang'i and into the big positions that were very critical in the public, and they really made a significant change. But up to now, I can ask you, do you think he's well versed with the docket that he or she is dealing with? All guessing and trying to emulate what others have been doing. So we are in this mess because of them, and we really need to, as they've said. So in fact, we'll need to change the constitution so that even the public themselves can now even start call not only the MPs but even the CSs for us to get on track. And with the issue that they are having between the number one and to solve it as soon as possible. And all this mess that we are in can really have a turnaround effect if really the president can address by first being accountable, that those who are responsible, from the CSs to the MPs, looting account, because these people are not stealing, that is looting. Because if you are wearing a watch worth 20 million, that is enough to a classroom in Mandera. That is serious looting. So I'm now trying to wonder, what about those others? What about them? So we are really in a serious crisis, and we really need to have these audits. All those who've been looting our money, they need to be accountable as soon as possible. Then we can now have the discussion that he's calling for. That is the dialogue. But before the dialogue, let us see some resignation, some firing, and some action from the head of state. And he will re-earn the favor not only of the Gen Zs but of the whole nation. And by 2027, he might even win. He won. So this it is really a defining moment for our democracy, and it is now up to him to decide. They are only saying one thing: he must go.
Yeah. Bontroy, what about? Sorry, Bontroy. I know that the president has hired very inept leaders, but I see. I don't know, but I see a lot of some. Maybe I don't know if the Central Alliance guys are in his government and University of Nairobi also. I don't know, but does it show that really even your university or whatever, unless you have again looks like there are people who can become cornish even if.
So if I, I also went to Alliance.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You can't tell a farmer to become a minister of transport.
Okay.
I mean, matters of agriculture.
Yes.
But I can't be well versed to matter of transport or finance.
Yeah.
It would have made sense. Engineer was a CS for mining or transport because he's an engineer, so he understands the works and the principles that guide the doctor himself or herself was the CS for health. You see, so that's where we really need to set the straight record straight.
Be very honest, we really need leaders and good leaders. The MPs speak more or less like they were thrown under a bus by voting for the contention. What next? The deputy president has asked Kenyans to forgive them and wait 2027 so that we may get rid of them at the ballot for those who we want to get rid of. What next for our MPs? Continue being in hibernation?
One of the things that the members of parliament must do is find a way back to connecting with the people. They must, everybody must find their way.
Yeah.
Because this was a marriage that you entered between yourself and the voters. Go back to the people, whether they'll beat you up or whatever, you must find your way back. You must use your grassroots networks. Hearts and minds of the people who voted you. But number two, also, after you found your way back, if you'll be forgiven. Now, going forward, you don't represent your household, you represent your people. You don't represent your party, you represent your people. You represent your people. People, the members of parliament must remember who elected them, who pays them, the care of them. It's the people, not the party, not the president, not any other person. And if they do that, redeem, not all of them, they may be able to redeem some of them. But there also the other issue that the leadership, the young people are very much aware of where we get our money. The internet has made it so easy for these young people to be able to hold everybody to account. You wear a watch where it was bought. You drive a car, they'll tell you the value of that car. You fly in a chopper, they'll even get the model of that chopper, and they will tell you how it was acquired. So this element of us thinking we're out of scrutiny. Today, every move you make, every word you speak, every action you do, you must be aware that watching you. And that is a kind of level of accountability people need to realize that we are living in. Therefore, you of the things we do. And the president has also failed to realize that the kind of young people he brought him are the kind of people also who can mobilize themselves to remove him. And if it's not care, government is not managed, it will remove him, not just today, maybe 2027. But also he has an opportunity. There are some casualties that must suffer for him to save himself. He must sacrifice
the leaders
people.
He surrounding
He
himself.
must, if he has to save himself. But if he chooses to save them, then they all go. Founded on loyalty and people who invested financially to support him. That has not worked. It was based on populism, where we tell these people this, but we deliver the opposite. We give people promise, but we deliver the opposite. If you give me money, I'll help you. If you give me this, I'll give you an opposition. Government today is run by people who have no clue of what is happening on the ground. Understanding, you're taken away. There are people who call themselves engineers, and they have never been to an engineering class. And these are the people.
Are you sure they did not come after you have left?
Call themselves engineers. They are the people who will decide we are not going to do a road from Mombasa to Nairobi. We'll do one from Baringo to the other place where it has no value.
They determine
money in areas where we have impact, and we must have the right engineers in the right places. We must have the right. We must have the doctors in the right places so that they can be able to use the skills and expertise that we have given the services that they require. Is the president is the one who said a third of our budget, but half of his cabinet is for people. They have skills which don't match them.
I think that is why he said that there's in some ministries he knows about a ministry.
Keeping them. Why is he keeping them there when he knows very well? He is telling us if we schools, we spend so much money in education, $5 billion shillings in education. How come our cabinet does not the education that we so cherish, that we invest in? You need to answer.
All right, food for thought. Still on that, the judiciary, the excesses the police have been meting out on the right to picket as enshrined. Other than that, and also the in terms of the abductions and not being. This is one arm of the government raising serious key concerns. Herself even mentioned that the courts are ready to have the rule of law. We need that if we have to have a thriving.
Well, Bantra, again, for judiciary, less talk is better. more action is needed. You see, the CJ may say that as that is just to encourage probably the legal fraternity to put in more effort, prosecute, and lawyers to come in and also defend, you know, But more action means that we want to see, you know, post-working hours, so as to help a citizen who has been arrested, that, you know, Friday probably, because they want to keep him until Monday. So needed actually in terms of how the judiciary should be more proactive. The mood of the country at the moment is that the government is oppressing the young people. So if you are arresting a 15-year-old who was, you know, and you're keeping that young man beyond 24 hours, why should you keep such a young man for 2 hours? I mean, you present him to a ready magistrate and release the young man on free bond. Why should you even talk about bond to service your security for appearance? Those young people don't. So it's important that the judiciary actually is proactive in terms of who have been caught up in a dissatisfied moment, so that they are not simply being, you know, in fact, we don't have enough prisons for doing that. Now, having said that, this panelist engineer, that there is God in heaven. By the way, this is a Christian country. We can say there are a huge number of Muslim believers, are religious, semi-spiritual, or let's say we are a religious nation. We believe strongly there is beyond us, there is the universal power that is God. Many of us think that is God, and anybody else would think anything, but we believe. When Kenya Kwanza came to power, you know, they did a very serious thing to their country, and this is what is biting us. There are who you said you should go back and endear yourself to your electorate. There were members of came into the August House through, let us say, Wiper, right? But just as you arrived in Parliament, went behind the president and said, now I will work with the head of state. And there are UDM, you know, who came under the Azimio Brigade, and then the state was declared to be William Ruto because of the business aspect. You behind. So that is where we are having this problem of you're simply picking of shareholding. You are picking just a friend too. Namwambia we shikilia hii. So that is where the problem is. So all that goes around comes around. If we said to actually survive this moment, he must fire all these people. Parliament who are appointed, or I mean elected under their parties to. Because Kenya Kwanza then retained a fake majority in the majority. So if the people are allowed to exercise the democratic right, and we wouldn't be having this, nobody would be so dissatisfied. Let me tell you, finance bill is enactment. It's not like it's a mysterious law that has been brought to us. You know, the appropriation bill and the finance bill time, so that Parliament can approve what the state will spend. Bill, they say, okay, this should be taken to education, this should be taken to water, this should be taken. Then the finance bill comes in because, you know, the elements of tax coming from, you know, the tax laws, corporation tax, these come in now to support what is contained in what? In the appropriation bill. The citizens strike out, or rather do not approve, or Parliament, then there is no government. This is why you had in Britain one time, they said we are shutting down the government. It shut down the government and allowed only special services, very, very necessary services. Kenya have told William Ruto is that you cannot operate this government. So you'd better. But of course here, because I mean, we have a very oratory president, he will come and give this explanation. The only way he can save his image is to ask all these people to go home. Let members of parliament who are ticket, let them stick to their party. And then now we start now negotiating. Now that we have at least governance-wise belong, then now where do we start?
All right.
Let's fight corruption.
Yes.
And such and such and such and so on and so on.
And because of a minute each as we wrap it up, and Council, of course, you will be answering the question of we are talking about this is happening in the country. It's not about the finance bill alone. It's a myriad of challenges. So after now the bill was returned to sender. All right.
To Kenyans is we, the people of Kenya, the young people of Kenya, we put out our grievances, our complaints and everything out there. We have literally shaken the system and the government and this so that it knows and accepts the voice of the people and the young people specifically to public accountability. I want to now call upon the clergy, the Muslims, and the professionals out there, people of goodwill and women, to find an exit strategy into this menace that way. Every Kenyan wants to wake up and do business and live a better life. We must the patriotism in us so that we find an exit door that we are in right now. And it takes all of us, men, women, people in government, people out of government, people in business sector, to come together and find a Kenya.
All right, and before I allow the SONU president, Rocha Matzayo, to have his final our live pictures from Kangemi, right here in the capital, Nairobi. From here, from the CBD, I'll be getting a little bit, looks a little bit busy, a little bit more in regards to that. I can see police are standing by. I see some smoke, but not quite. Something must be happening. The reason I'm saying this is because we are not seeing any vehicle using that road, which is usually road, and we can see some smoke billowing from the road. We are not quite sure exactly what is happening there, but we will be getting our close by to give us an exact report on what is happening. By 2 police vehicles, and see the road is clear 100% on motorbikes, and a few people also continuing with their day-to-day. President of SONU, Rocha Matzayo, for closing remarks.
Yes, thanks so much for the opportunity. One, I'd like to thank all the Gen for this moment that we have proved to the nation that we have a voice and that we need to be listened to. We've done much for the nation and have enlightened, because we have all been aware of all these problems for a long time and silent because of the fear of the this far, although not yet, but we are still there. The parliament is rotted. It is high time that we cleaned it. We clean the government first before we have any dialogue. And even to the his officials also, we need to see action and talk, because for a long time we've talked. Time we took action and we see him firing and see people in this nation that we love as Kenya.
Thank you. Engineer, 30 seconds.
To give one word. If you consider yourself a Gen Z, by the next year when we are celebrating the Gen Z movement, you are a registered ID so that you can be able to have the right weapons. Student leaders in the universities, in colleges, advantage of this opportunity to mobilize your people. Make sure they have IDs to be ready for the next phase.
And finally, last but not least,
thank you. I think, Bantry, there is no bill like you asked about it. I wouldn't be the one to direction. I think this should be completely forgotten. But say this is an annual bill, so 6 months or so and decide that they now all taxes in every other item, and then they show the direction of how they are from all cuts, on spending, especially what is happening in the executive, bring it down to the judiciary. And but having said that, I think I really concur here that the young just pick up their voting cards. Voters come 2027. If the masses we are seeing in the street have, are each registered as voters, but again, the selection panel has not commissioner, selected commissioner IBC, and I think that's one point that the agency should be acted upon by the president as soon as today.
I agree, but these reports are so many. We had the, every time we sit around and little to nothing is done. But away from that, as from my an advocate of the High Court and also a leadership in. Next to him, we have Engineer Crispus Wadhimba, who is as well. Just next to him, we have Sonu President Ayo, the student leader of Nairobi University, and just have a young member and also a youth, Imran Mohammed. Thank you, gentlemen, for your insight. And
thank you so much.
My name is Bentro Njue Odingo on the sign language interpreting, and Muraru on behalf of me. Thank you so much, including my director Mugo, to know exactly what is happening. Giving the baton to my colleague and Abdullahi Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini.
Artificial intelligence revolutionized music streaming, and Deezer, AI could not only suggest you, but also deliver podcasts in your native. On that in a moment. Plus, why are so little to combat Russian propaganda in our? That's why the antitrust lawsuit against Google